This is
Make it plain.
Make it plain.
MIP
With Masamela Matfumo.
Mark Thompson.
Make it plain.
Get woke.
Ladies and gentlemen, how many of you are nerds? I know we've got some out in the MIP community and family. So we want to talk about that, particularly Black nerds and Black nerd problems. That's the new book that has been published. And we have the authors of that book here with us, William Evans and Omar Holmon, authors of Black Nerd Problems. William and Omar, how you both doing?
Good. Thanks for having us. Thank you.
So both of y'all are nerds, right?
Yes.
On the weekends, I moonlight as one.
On the weekend. So so how do you moonlight? What is your nerd activity?
Oh, like 9 to 5. You know, I usually like to get into comic books and do a little bit of a video game. I'm just joking. Yeah, it's a 24/7 job. It is a 24/7 job.
I thought you was gonna be like, you know, you're a vigilante at night or something. You know what I'm saying? You just get the nerd uniform
Wife
when the sun goes
down. Watching the anime, she comes in. What are you watching? Oh, anything but anime. Oh, yeah, I was watching.
What about you, William? What's your nerd?
Nerd addiction? My nerd addiction, more than anything, is probably I game. I'm a big gamer. So video games. I'm also like a big TV and movie nerd, period, right? But that extends to like anime and animated shows like that. But I love TV. I like the construction of TV and the writing and all that. So that's all my stuff.
So when I'm probably older than both of you. So when I was coming along, nerd was someone who was too interested and made too good grades in math, science, or computer science. That's what a nerd was. That was it.
Yeah.
All the gaming, the comic book. So none of us wanted to be nerds. Yep. That wasn't cool. And I actually used to be really good in math. But if you were a nerd, the girls weren't interested in you. They thought you were kind of weird. So I started dumbing down. Okay, start messing up in math on purpose, like a lot of us do.
Yep.
Then as I've gotten older and have had Neil deGrasse Tyson countless times on my show, and now he is a sex symbol for being a nerd. And I'm like, wait a minute. If we had known this was gonna go this way, he come by the studio, every woman, ain't no woman even heard of me. All the women come in my studio, oh, we want to picture him. I said, but I've been here. No, you ain't here.
I'm right here.
He's a sexy nerd. I'm like, what? So, and he and I laugh about it. I'm saying, okay, if all the brothers knew that, man. So anyway, that's real. But guys, tell us about Omar, you first. What inspired you to write this book?
Oh man, we wrote it together. Well, you know, rent was due. So not just something. I mean, if you're being honest, it's just what Will and I like riff about. We made a website about it. We found like-minded people to do it as well. And I mean, Will, he's gonna be like, "Oh, it was Omar being humble." No, I work like a mouse. You point, I will click. Will's the brain behind the operation. He got the book deal. He's like, "Yo, Omar, you trying to do this?" I'm like, "All right, well, we'll get this done." But like, this is real. I mean, this is fun for us. When you get to do like 5 rounds of edits, I don't know if it's still fun, but you know, it's Denzel Washington. Remember the Titans? Is it still fun? It's zero fun, sir. But this was still fun. This was still fun to do. It's just us like riffing back and forth, and we're not really talking at people about nerddom here. We're talking with you about it. So no matter what your fandom is, you will find it in here in this book. We have something that you'll be like, oh, you know what? I didn't know about this, and I'm now interested in it, or I knew about this, I didn't think about it this way, or I knew about this, I thought about it this way. They're preaching to me right now, and I'm with that. Dip me in the pulpit.
So you're saying William kind of saw it through. He's the one that kind of, is that what happened?
You gonna put this on me?
The connect. Listen, I should show up. You know, when you need to hit her, I'll show up. Will's like, Will gets the connections. Will's like, yo, we doing this now. All right, that's all I need to know.
I mean, the story of it, Mark, is that basically I put out a book. I put out a poetry collection. That's how Omar and I know each other. We met through the performance poetry circuit and just kind of been friends through that ever since 2008.
Okay.
And so I put out a poetry collection last year, and the editor that put that book out she knew that I was a co-founder for Black Nerd Problems. She was like, hey, have you considered, making, your essays and everything into a book on the subject matter? And I was like, people gonna read that? Like, I know they read it off the internet, right? But like, people are actually going to be interested in that as a collection. And so once she put that seed in my head, then I went to Omar. I was like, I feel like there's maybe a way we could do this, right? And I think the impact and the importance of it for me is that I think it's validating to a lot of folks that are into this different types of nerdom and geekdom and things like that, where it doesn't feel mainstream or they don't feel like they just share their interests with everyone, right? I think you said at the top of it, like a nerd is someone that was like super into these things. And I think that definition is the same. I just think that range is expanded, right? Like it's still, I think, probably the sexy thing about Neil deGrasse Tyson is that he's like an expert, right? Like he's just an expert about something. And I think that kind of almost tunnel vision and expertise in a thing is really what kind of drives the definition of being a nerd now.
Yeah. And I resent him for that, for being a sex symbol. And I'm not.
You have to flag out, man.
I resent him. So and the attention he gets. But so to be clear though, I think this would be a good thing to do, because there may be some folk listening, like you mentioned gaming.
Mm-hmm.
My son is a gamer. But he didn't call himself a nerd, and maybe he is, and we maybe that's just something he doesn't say. So why don't we do this? For those who may not be clear, let's define nerd. What are some of the things in 2021 we would say are what being a nerd is?
I mean, Omar, you wrote a chapter literally about this. So.
Oh yeah, yes, I did. So instead of a nerd being just like a person, I think instead it's more like evolved over the time. So it's not less. It's like, oh, a nerd is just, if you look at the definition, right, it's this geeky person, whatever. It's become more like, you're a fan. If you're a nerd, you are a fan of this. Like a sneakerhead, they'd be considered a nerd because they know all these things about sneakers, know all the collections and stuff like that. If you know sports and you know like the shooting average of an NBA player, you're a nerd. You're a sports nerd. You know the shooting averages, you know the dribble, all these things. I'm not really good with basketball, so I don't know these things. Like football, you can be a nerd. You can be a nerd for anything now. Cooking shows, you like cooking shows, you like watching those, you can be a nerd for that. So nerd has evolved from being like this definition of a person into a spectrum. Nerd means you are a fan. You are a fan of something. Anything along this very wide spectrum, you can be a nerd for that, which is just saying you can be a fan of this thing, this vast amount of things at this end of the spectrum or the other end of the spectrum.
But I would say like a super fan, right? Like it's not just like, hey, I turn on a cooking show like once a week, right? Like I think we were talking with someone before and they kind of put the seed in my head too. Not only are you a super fan of a thing or a great number of things, usually they're off the quote unquote mainstream, right? Usually they're things that like you tell someone's like, oh, I didn't know you were into that, that kind of thing. But also have that enthusiasm to want to share that with other people, right? That want to kind of quote unquote spread the gospel of whatever the fandom you have. It's a morbid analogy, but we have a mutual friend, someone that was part of Black Nerd Problems, Nicole Homer, said nerds are like the dogs or the cats that find like a dead bird or something and bring it to your porch. Like, hey, I brought this thing for you, right? And sometimes the person's like, I don't know if that's for me, but I feel like that's what nerds do, right? Like we find something, we get super interested in it, and then we want to like, hey, you should check this thing out. Hey, this really sparked something for me. I think you would like this too. I think that's part of a characteristic of being a nerd right now as well.
More MIP after this message.
So I could, because I am into everything political. I could be a political nerd.
Oh, absolutely. Wonks are nerds for sure. Sports. We can sit and talk all day. I know everything about either the New York Yankees or the Georgetown Hoyas. So maybe I'm a Georgetown nerd or a Yankee nerd. Absolutely.
So I could be a nerd, and therefore I'm sexy. Okay, guys, thanks for coming on the show.
That's how that works.
We took care of that. Folks get, but that's all we came here to establish.
We take check, money order, whatever you need.
Thanks for coming on the show, brothers. All right, so I get it. So now being a black nerd, though, is that a little bit? Is that different?
It comes with some baggage is not the right word. It comes with some attachments, right?
Okay.
And I think because so much of geekdom and nerdom occupy spaces, right? Internet spaces where people are talking about these things, or conventions like New York Comic Con where you're in physical spaces. And then once you start, just like anywhere else, just like literally anywhere else, once you start putting Black people into the mix, then there becomes this whole question of, do they belong, right? Should they be in this space? Or we have to confront that. Do other people think we belong in the space, right? And so I think a big part for me, the distinction with, being a nerd, being a Black nerd, is that, Omar and I, and it comes through in the book, we look at things differently, right? Like we draw different conclusions from, it doesn't matter if it's, Game of Thrones, which, a billion people watched. Black folks might see a lot of other cultural references in that and pull something different from it, right? Yeah. Compared to your average white viewer that was tuning in every Sunday, something like that. So I think the perspectives that we bring, because our lived experience may be different, sometimes, goes further to other us from folks that are already in that fandom. Yeah.
But you use the term problems. Are those some of the problems you're talking about, just in terms of being Black and a nerd?
I got you. So let's say have you heard of cosplaying?
Yes.
Okay. So you're just cosplaying, you're just paying homage to like your favorite character, right? So let's say I want to cosplay as Naruto, this Japanese character in an anime and a manga, very popular. So I'll go to a convention, I'm cosplaying as that, and like white people come to me, oh, you're Naruto, cool, but Naruto's not Black. All right, cool, but they're not white either. So what are we talking about right now?
Wow.
It's like, why is me? Yeah. So it's like, it's that. If you're if you're a Black woman, that's a nerd. And you hear a bunch of dudes saying, oh, Black girl nerds didn't like me. Oh, like that's a problem. I don't know. We were here. We might not have liked you because of your personality. That might not have nothing to do with you being a nerd. It's your personality. Right. So like it's things like that.
Yeah. And also, I mean, if we're talking about things like cosplay and Comic-Con, I mean, that's part of the struggle too. The lack of Black representation. It's getting better, but the lack of it makes it harder on folk like you who want to cosplay, who want to be in that role. So if you're not used to seeing that and you show up in that role, what are you doing? That's part of the issue, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. And even going a little bit further down that, the expectation, right? Like, so I think a lot of people, when we first debuted Black Nerd Problems many years ago, was that, oh, okay, so they're nerdy and they're Black, so the only things they're going to talk about are like Black characters, right? Or Black creators. And we do talk about them in, a lot because of the interest there, but we also indulge everything nerdy, right? And so, whether that's us covering a show, like there's a joke I make in the book because I write about Mad Men. Like I watched Mad Men when it was airing, and I always made the joke I was one of 7 Black people that were watching Mad Men live, kind of a thing. But I talked to someone about Mad Men, and they're like, "You watched that?" And I was like, "Yeah, it was one of the best primetime TV shows in the last 20 years." And so like there's a surprise. It's like, oh, I didn't know you'd be into that. You didn't think I'd be into good TV, right? That's that expectation that others put upon you, that assumption, I think would be a Black Nerd Problem as well. Yeah.
So in terms of Black Nerd Problems, I mean, the book is one thing, but you guys kind of have sort of a collective community, don't you?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Tell us about that and how people can get involved in it.
Absolutely.
And if I'm invited now that I'm a sexy nerd.
Yeah. The doors are open. You got a VIP pass. We just
love the logo, by the way, the glasses and the fro. That says it all. Love it.
Yeah. I mean, we started out as a website, right? And we still exist as a website, but we expanded into streaming. We expanded into like meetups and things when we go to different places. The community, we have like a Discord for like, that is just our community, is basically a message board type of place. Omar and I talk about this all the time. We didn't realize that we'd be building a community in this way. We thought we would just like write some articles, write some funny stuff here and there, put it up on the internet. Hopefully people share it. And then we go back and write another thing. I think it was an interesting dichotomy for me, and I'll let Omar speak to it as far as like, oh, we have people that are invested in us now, right? We have people that feel safe or feel that we're doing right by them, so they come to us every week to see what we wrote on XYZ. And that was a shift for me because I just wasn't anticipating that. Yeah. Omar, were you gonna say something? Go ahead.
We came out like it was about 7 years ago, so it wasn't there are other people covering other Black sites covering like media and stuff as well, Asian sites as well. We're like, all right, cool. So like you can come to us for this, you can go to them for that. Like Game of Thrones, like we all had our clans and whatnot. Our thing was just like, yeah, as Will said, we're gonna get these jokes off and whatnot. And when we mentioned before, Nicole Holmer, it turned out like, hey, people are kind of seeing us as a community now. And then I think Will's more mature than I am. So my first reaction was, I do extra things now. And Nicole,
responsibility?
Because our thing was like, I was like, oh, we can, I mean, which is fine, because we always kind of did our own thing. Like, oh, we're just, here, we'll get these jokes out, these articles, social commentary and things like that. And then it became like, and then Nicole said, we're a bunch of, because a lot of us had a writing background. We came from poetry as well. Others not, but like, we're into writing now. And Nicole said, we're a bunch of loners that somehow made a community. So now we have to adhere to that community and build that community, hence the Discord. And so it's like, all right, I guess we got to be on our responsible boots now, and, which is fine,
Does being a poet make you a nerd too?
It can.
Probably.
Yeah.
Probably, yeah. I would say, I mean, when we launched Black Nerd Problems, the first thing we did, like just kind of building an audience. The first thing we did on Facebook when we built a Facebook group is we reached out to all our poet friends, like, hey, you might be interested in this, right? Like that was our first audience, right? That was our first semblance of a community. I think poets, especially performance poets, I think so many of us were used to pop culture that is not necessarily mainstream, right? Yeah. That's just kind of our wheelhouse, is where a lot of our ideas and resources come from. So being a poet, that makes you in a pretty good running for being a nerd as well.
Yeah. No, that's amazing.
More MIP after this message.
Are you finding that Black nerds are benefiting from your space, and not only that, to your point, Omar, when they have these experiences, it seems like whatever space we enter in as Black people, there's a level of suspicion. Mm-hmm. Does this collective space give people an opportunity to maybe even dialogue and process that and deal with it, handle it better, be prepared for it?
Oh yeah, I think so. I think I can attest to like creatively, like seeing us speak this way, without any code switching. There was a kid that hit me up maybe a day or two ago, and he was like, "Hey man, you gave me some advice a couple of years back, and it's just crazy now that I have your book. I'm in college now, and I have your book in my hand." He did like this. It's like public speaking, where they'll take like poems and stuff like that and use it for like debate or something like that. I'm not even sure what it's called, but he asked me for one of mine. And I look back, and I was like facing it. I look back, this was like 2017, 2018. Now the guy's in college, and he's like, oh, that advice you gave me about writing, I use it to this day, about using humor and writing and stuff like that. And that's just what I do in the book and on the site. And so we get a lot of that, like, oh wow, you guys did, oh, you're Will, you're oh wow, and or are you Jordan? No, I'm not Jordan, I'm Omar, man. Stop. Are you Brittany? No, I'm not Brittany, I'm Omar.
One of our people.
So we get confused for each other as well, which is nice. And but like people that are like really like resonating with what we made onto the site and the things we've written. So even if it's not me or Will, there's someone on the site that you can identify with or mess with. It's like, that same line of thought, or they gave me the confidence to do this. They gave me the confidence to write this, to go and try cosplay, and to go and maybe do streaming on myself and whatnot, or maybe write skits and whatnot, become like try to do this influencer thing, or just write skits for myself or whatever.
Yeah. No, that's amazing. You all also lift up, and again, all of our experiences we tend to deal with and be susceptible to. The case of Darian Hunt, cosplayer in Utah. For those who don't know his story, William, share that, please.
Yeah, it's a tragically simple tale that he was cosplaying as a character from an anime, and that character in the anime has a sword, right? He's like a samurai. But he also carries a very Black aesthetic, right? He's a Black character in the anime. And so this is Darian Hunt, a Black man that was cosplaying as this character with a plastic sword. And basically he was questioned. He was stopped to be questioned because they thought he had a deadly weapon. And I think Darian did what a lot of us would do when their life is threatened. He ran, and they shot him in the back and killed him. And I wrote about that specifically. That was one of the first essays I wrote for the site way back when, because it just mirrored this experience of me going to a convention and seeing like these weapons from famous video games and anime and stuff. And I just had this moment of being like, wait, someone got killed for this. Someone that looks like me got killed for this. And so I think there's always a trepidation about moving into those spaces. And what I hope Black Nerd Problems has provided is that, you know, Omar and I, we're our full selves, right? We're lucky to being able to be our full selves and have whatever success that means. Just saying it very plainly, we're not living in accordance under the eyes of white folks. We get to be us. And hopefully we can help normalize that for more folks that would look at us skeptically, to where that is not a dangerous venture just to be ourselves.
You all are cool. Sound like a lot of fun. You're having fun. See, that was the other thing. And when I'm 54. So when I was in high school and stuff, the nerds weren't the cool kids. Now y'all are cool. I mean, I'm listening. I want to come hang out with y'all. But back in the day when a nerd was a different kind of thing, they sat at a separate table. Nobody, you know,
had their math books open during lunch.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's a subculture.
Yeah. But no, y'all doing it. And I know quite a few Black nerds. And they're cool. I mean, that's the thing to be. So nerd is a new sexy, y'all. That's a great thing. Folks, check out the website, blacknerdproblems.com. But let me ask you this too before we go. So you talk about all different conferences. Do Black nerds have their own Black nerd?
There's
cons?
a few. There's a bit now, like in terms of we specifically don't have our own, but there are definitely some cons that are, if they are not exclusively Black, they have Black leadership or predominantly Black attended, right? I think there's and to be honest, most of them take place somewhat in the South. Really? So yeah,
DreamCon.
You have DreamCon, which is in Texas. I wouldn't say it's predominantly Black, but is definitely more heavily Black audience. Would be like Dragon Con in Georgia.
So wait a minute. Now you said I'm curious. So what do they do in DreamCon?
DreamCon is a nerd Comic-Con. So it's like a lot of gaming conference stuff like that. Yeah.
Okay.
And it's brand new. They just debuted this past year.
And the same thing at Dragon. You say it's called Dragon Con?
Dragon Con down in Georgia. Yeah. Atlanta. Is it Atlanta or is it somewhere outside of Atlanta?
Georgia.
And then there's
in DC.
There's BlurredCon that's in DC. So there's a few, and if they're all, I mean, Dragon Con's been around for a little bit longer, but I think Dragon Con's one of them spots that's been around, and like Black people was like, hey, let's roll up in this, and so like the audience is kind of diversified more just by virtue of more Black people attending it.
Is there still the all women's one, Will, that was taking place in Seattle?
Geek Girl Con. Geek Girl Con. I don't know the answer to that. I think COVID upended a lot of stuff. So I don't know, but there wasn't pretty much that was geared towards more women identified folks up in Seattle. Okay. But yeah, they're cropping up. And I think that really just shows that there's like a demand and a hunger for that. And it's pretty powerful. You walk into a spot and you see a lot of Black folks there just being the most nerdy selves, right?
Are y'all thinking about at some point having your own con?
He don't
like
doesn't want any more work.
He don't want nothing else to do. He just wants to nerd out. He want to do the thing.
He's like, I'll show up.
So wait, hold on, Omar. Are you a gamer yourself?
Me?
Yeah.
Stop. Don't even give a qualified answer.
I'm gonna play Ghost of Tsushima after this. I just don't like. Will can control time. We're convinced that this man can control time. He's got a family. He was in an MFA and he was writing a book, and he was somehow still getting up like gaming out of nowhere.
I'm so tired though, Omar.
You don't get no sleep. You stay up all night gaming.
I don't stay up all night, but I pack a lot into my day. I'll just say that. I pack a lot into my day.
Okay. So I'm gonna sound a little nerdy now. I'm kind of cool with the Black actors that are showing up in some of the comic spaces in the movie.
Yeah.
You know, I'm like, that's what's up. You know, you see that, and I think it even attracts more of us because we don't see ourselves.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, Mary Jane is Zendaya. That's what's up.
Yeah.
You know, the sister who's Batgirl. I mean, that's, you know, and Zoe's going to be Catwoman. Yeah. I'm down with all that.
Yeah. I think it's very cool. And it just speaks to what implicitly about these comic book characters or any fictional characters means that they have to be white, right? Like just like almost never is there a scenario where it's like, well, if this person wasn't actually this race, then it wouldn't make sense. It's almost never. And so seeing that be more representative, right, of these kind of like faces that they're trying to mimic in reality, right, I think is dope. And it does bring us out. It does make us invest more, because I think being to these geek spaces is that you were already a fan, right? Like it's going to bring in some new people, but most of us were already a fan. But then it makes us want to spread the gospel, right? Yeah. It makes us want to be like, yo, you should come check this out. Yo, this character's usually white, but they don't, now there's always going to be this character, right? So I think that's a cool thing that helps that we're already fans bring in more folks.
Yeah. Meg the Stallion out here cosplaying. Anything is possible, man. Anything is possible.
So, right. But I tell you one thing that turned me. When I was before high school, I was fascinated with Batman because he wore black. So I made him black. And so in the neighborhood, so in the neighborhood, because he wore black. So so in the neighborhood, right, we'd all dress up and play superhero and run around the neighborhood, pretend like we fighting crime in the neighborhood. I was always Batman because I got to wear the black cape, and that was thing. And so some of my friends started to outgrow that, and they made it, Marks didn't want to be Batman. And again, that was what was going on. That's what took me out of that. I can't do that no more. That's not cool. Then I got to school and started doing well in math, had to cut that out. So, I mean, I think that, I hope that's better now, that's changed. That kids coming along aren't penalized for being nerdy. Is it better?
Yeah, I think it is. I think it is. I also, cause to your point, Reverend Mark, I also think there's a very specific Black component to this, of which coming up in certain neighborhoods, you didn't want to look like you were smart. You didn't, you know what I mean? Like it was actually used against you, right?
That's what I'm saying.
And I think that has gotten better too, right? In terms of a collective, like, hey, we're doing something with this. We're growing with this, how you can invest in that. So I think it was particularly loaded for Black folks as well, on the nerd angle. But I think, I've been saying this, it's happened in a lot of different spaces, but like the MCU movies have really, really helped nerd become more mainstream, because those are comic books, right? It used to be, oh, you read comics,
right?
And you get the weird face,
all of that, and
now it's like, yo, if you an expert on Thor, then I can tell you what's going to happen in the next movie, and now you care because you're going to go see the movie, right? Yeah. And so I think that has kind of changed the game, and I think that's still happening in like other genres too. So now it's more widely accepted. More people are into it. So I do think it's changing.
I even had a good friend in high school. And he stayed a nerd. But we stayed friends. And a lot of folk weren't into that. But people, people were like, I'll be with the regular people. But he and I would hang and go to the comic book store.
Nice.
Nobody else would go but me and him. And I was cool except when I went to the comic book store. Mark, you crazy. Why you going to the comic book store? You over here with us women, then you going to the comic book store. You got to make up your mind about what you're going to be. But I managed to, straddle the line and do both. Folks, this is y'all should have a conference though. I think y'all have a great conference.
I'm going to wear Omar down. We're going to keep talking about it.
Look at him rolling his eyes like he don't want to do nothing.
He wants no parts.
So are you both still doing any poetry? You still doing any poetry or what?
Yeah. I mean, I laugh only because Omar's like, I'm done, but Omar literally put out a poetry book last year.
Go ahead.
So
go ahead, brother.
Only one it'll be.
One and done.
I can't put no GIF in a poetry book, man. Give me his GIFs, give me his essays.
But yeah, I'm still writing poems. I just got finished with my MFA, so I have a bunch of poems that I need to figure out what to do with.
Well, he's gaming and he got an MFA.
Yeah,
when did he do that?
See what I'm saying?
You must have got it. You got MFA online. Is that what you did?
No, man. No.
You had to. You was gaming, had one screen game, and then the other game one of them online MFAs. I see you, bro. You nice with yours.
It was in another state too. He had to fly out the state there. I'm telling all your business. He had to fly out the state to go there. Gave the graduation speech as well too. Let's not forget that. Nerd.
Where'd you get your MFA, man?
I got my MF. I got it from Randolph College in Virginia.
Dude,
yeah.
So what you gonna do with that?
I'm still writing, and I might. I've been entertaining the idea of teaching. So it's. But we're gonna see what the book do next. We're gonna see what the book do next.
So
before I make any other moves.
Don't tell nobody. It's between us. I am seriously considering going back for my PhD.
That's what's up.
Ooh.
That's what's up.
So I might become more of a nerd than some of y'all think.
Nerd level up.
Nerd level up. Nerd. Y'all are great. William Evans, Omar, Holmon. The book is Black Nerd Problems. Visit the site. I'm gonna tell everybody I know if they don't know already. BlackNerdProblems.com. Great. See how fun these guys are. It's cool to be a nerd, y'all. So the book is titled Mark is a Nerd, Therefore Sexy. Pick it up everywhere. I'm just kidding. Black Nerd Problems, y'all. Check it out. You guys are great. Can't wait to talk to you some more and spend some time with you and encourage everybody to support what you're doing, okay?
I appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you guys.
Thanks for getting woke and listening to Make It Plain. Please remember to listen, like, and wherever you get your podcasts, please give the show a 5-star rating. And please do spread the word. Let's all continue to pray for each other during this pandemic and this police-demic. If all hearts and minds are clear, it has been made plain.